Imagine living in a coffin-sized cage, stacked floor to ceiling with hundreds of others. Or making your home inside an actual tomb, surrounded by the dead. These aren't horror movie scenarios. This is reality for millions of people around our world. Today, we're taking you inside 7 of the most unbelievable, most extreme places where real people call home. Some will shock you, some will break your heart, and all of them will change how you see the world. I'm talking about underground flood tunnels, cemetery shacks, and living spaces so small you can't even stand up. And wait until you see number 6. It's literally defying gravity and common sense. Buckle up, because what you're about to see is hard to believe. But it's all real. Place 1. The Tunnel Dwellers. Las Vegas Flood Tunnels. USA. Beneath the glittering casinos and neon lights of Las Vegas lies a dark secret. Literally, deep underground, in hundreds of miles of flood drainage tunnels, hundreds of people have made their homes in complete darkness. These aren't cozy underground apartments. We're talking about concrete storm drains built to channel flash floods away from the famous Las Vegas Strip. The tunnels are pitch black, damp, and when the rare desert rainstorm hits, they can fill with rushing water in minutes, washing away everything and everyone in their path. The residents create makeshift living spaces with salvaged furniture, battery-powered lights, and whatever they can carry down through the grates. Some have been living here for years, even decades. They arrange their belongings on pallets to stay above potential flooding and mark their territories in the endless maze of concrete corridors. Life here means no sunlight, no running water, and constant danger. But for those who've fallen through society's cracks, dealing with addiction, mental illness, or financial ruin, these tunnels offer shelter in one of America's most expensive tourist cities. The irony? Just feet above their heads, millions of dollars change hands every hour in the casinos. Place 2. Cage Homes. Hong Kong, China. Hong Kong has some of the most expensive real estate on earth. And for the city's poorest residents, that means living in conditions that seem impossible in a modern, wealthy metropolis. Welcome to the Cage Homes, or Coffin Homes, as they're grimly nicknamed. Picture this: wire mesh cages, stacked from floor to ceiling, each one measuring roughly 6 feet long by 2.5 feet wide, barely larger than a single bed. Inside these metal boxes, people eat, sleep, and live their entire lives. There's barely enough room to sit up, let alone stand. Tens of thousands of people in Hong Kong live in these subdivided units and similar cramped housing. In a single apartment, you might find multiple cages or partitioned spaces crammed together, with residents sharing a single bathroom and minimal kitchen facilities. The summer heat is suffocating, with limited air conditioning and minimal ventilation. Privacy doesn't exist. You can hear everything, see everything your neighbors do through the thin partitions. Personal belongings are hung on hooks or stored in small bags because there's simply nowhere else to put them. Many residents are elderly people on fixed pensions, or low-wage workers who spend 12-hour days laboring in the city, only to return to a space smaller than a parking spot. And yet, in Hong Kong's brutal housing market, even these tiny spaces command high rents relative to their size. That's how desperate the situation has become. If what you're seeing blows your mind, hit subscribe on Travel Max right now. We go where others won't to show you the real world. You don't want to miss what's next. Place 3. Cemetery Dwellings. Manila, Philippines. In Manila, the capital of the Philippines, housing shortages and poverty have driven thousands of families to take up residence in the most unlikely place imaginable, among the dead. The Manila North Cemetery and other cemeteries have become home to thousands of people who've turned tombs and mausoleums into their houses. This isn't temporary camping. Entire families live inside and on top of elaborate tombs, some for generations. They hang laundry between gravestones, cook meals on top of marble crypts, and children play between rows of the deceased. The larger mausoleums, originally built for wealthy families, now house families who've created living spaces with curtains and makeshift walls. Some residents work as caretakers, earning income by maintaining graves and cleaning tombs. Others are simply families who found free or very low-cost housing in a city where rent is impossible to afford on minimum wage. They've created a complete community here. There are small shops and children growing up playing among the graves. During the day, the cemetery functions normally, with mourners visiting their deceased relatives, often not realizing that people are living in nearby tombs. At night, the cemetery becomes a neighborhood, with families gathering outside their tomb homes, cooking dinner and socializing under the tropical sky. The conditions are far from ideal, cramped with limited access to proper sanitation, and psychologically challenging. But for these families, it's home. And in a strange way, they've found community and safety in a place most people would find unsettling. Place 4. Condemned building squats. Caracas, Venezuela. In Caracas, Venezuela, the Tower of David stands as one of the world's most striking examples of urban squatting. This 45-story skyscraper was abandoned during construction in the 1990s and eventually became home to over 3,000 people who transformed an empty concrete shell into a vertical community. The building has no elevators, so residents climb up to 30 floors on foot, carrying water, groceries, and building materials. There's no running water above the 22nd floor, meaning families haul water up dozens of flights daily. Electricity is jerry-rigged from the city grid, creating a dangerous tangle of wires throughout the building. Despite these challenges, residents created a functioning community inside. They built makeshift walls to divide the open floors into apartments, established small businesses like shops and beauty salons, and even organized security to keep the building safe. Some apartments have been surprisingly well furnished, with families doing everything they can to create normal homes in abnormal circumstances. The building represents Venezuela's severe housing crisis, where economic collapse has left millions unable to afford housing. While authorities eventually relocated the Tower of David residents, similar occupied buildings exist throughout Caracas and other Venezuelan cities, where desperate families take over any available space. And if you think that's extreme, stick around because number 5 will show you an entire city built on water. And it's not what you think. Place 5, Floating Slums, Makoko, Lagos, Nigeria. Off the coast of Lagos, Nigeria, sits Makoko, a sprawling floating slum where tens of thousands of people live in wooden houses built on stilts over a lagoon. This is one of Africa's largest water-based communities, often called the Venice of Africa. Though that romantic name doesn't capture the harsh reality, the houses are constructed from scrap wood and metal sheets, connected by narrow wooden planks that serve as walkways. There are no roads, so residents navigate by canoe, paddling between houses, shops, and schools. Yes, even schools built on water. Children learn to paddle at a young age, as canoes are the primary mode of transportation. The lagoon water is heavily polluted, as there's no formal waste management system. The structures are constantly threatened by rot, storms, and fire. When one wooden house catches fire, it can spread across the tightly packed community rapidly. Yet Makoko has its own economy and social structure. There are markets, churches, and businesses all existing on the water. Fishermen head out each morning, and the community has existed here for generations, with some families having lived in the area for over a century. Nigerian authorities have periodically attempted demolitions, calling Makoko a health hazard and illegal settlement. But for the people who live here, it's not just home, it's a functioning community on water, born from necessity and sustained by remarkable human resilience. Place 6, Rooftop Slums, Hong Kong and Chinese cities. In Hong Kong and other Chinese cities, some of the poorest residents live in illegal rooftop structures perched atop residential buildings. These makeshift homes, built from scrap metal, wood, and plastic sheeting, cling to rooftops sometimes 20 or 30 stories above the ground. These rooftop dwellings are built without permission or safety standards. They lack proper foundations, are vulnerable to typhoons and heavy rain, and pose serious fire risks. During Hong Kong's intense summer heat, the metal structures become unbearably hot, while winter offers little protection from cold winds. Residents access these homes through building stairwells, often illegally, and tap into the building's electricity and water supplies. A single rooftop might house multiple families in separate shacks, creating dense communities high above the city streets. Despite the danger and illegality, these rooftop homes persist because they're among the only affordable options for the city's poorest workers. Many residents are elderly, migrants, or people working minimum wage jobs who simply cannot afford legitimate housing in one of the world's most expensive cities. Authorities periodically demolish these structures, but new ones quickly appear, a testament to the severity of the housing crisis. For residents, the risk of living on a rooftop is preferable to homelessness on the streets below. Place 7. Sewer pipe communities. Various locations. In various cities around the world, from Hong Kong to parts of Mexico and other developing nations, abandoned or unused concrete drainage pipes have become emergency shelters for homeless individuals and desperately poor families. These industrial pipes, typically measuring between 6 to 10 feet in diameter, offer just barely enough space for a person to lie down or a small family to huddle together. Residents customize them with foam padding, blankets, and small battery-powered lights. Some paint the interiors or hang fabric at the entrance for privacy. The pipes offer basic protection from rain and some insulation from extreme temperatures, which is more than sleeping on the street provides. But they're also claustrophobic, offering minimal ventilation, no sanitation, and no dignity. Depending on the pipe size, residents often cannot stand upright and must crawl in and out. These pipes are typically found in empty lots, under highway overpasses, or in construction areas, making them temporary at best. They're always under threat of removal when authorities clear areas or when the pipes are needed for their intended purpose. What makes these pipe dwellings particularly striking is they often exist in the shadow of wealth. Modern cities with gleaming skyscrapers, where some people sleep in industrial tubes. The contrast illustrates the extreme inequality present in rapidly developing urban areas worldwide. These 7 places remind us that while we often take our homes for granted, millions of people worldwide are showing incredible resilience, living in conditions most of us can't imagine. If this video opened your eyes, share it with someone who needs to see it. Subscribe to Travel Max for more stories from the corners of our world that don't make the evening news. And remember, home isn't always 4 walls and a roof. Sometimes it's just the place where people refuse to give up. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next adventure.